Welcome back to Scoundrels, Inc., another Star Wars podcast. I am Frank Janich here with apparently Minnie Mouse, Kevin Smets, and the one and only Brandon Hanna to talk about the Acolyte season finale titled The Acolyte. And does Minnie have an opinion on The Acolyte, Kevin?
Oh, Disney, Star Wars, the greatest. Sorry about that. Minnie was just hanging.
She just barges in like
back
that.
Over there.
Okay.
Make me some dinner, yo.
Kevin got that in the mail with a letter saying, sorry, we ran out of Acolyte figures, but here's a Minnie Mouse.
I am a shill, so of course they sent me a Minnie Mouse.
They sent you something. So before we launch into the discussion for the season finale of the show, just a quick note on what we're doing here. Since I'll be on vacation for the next couple of weeks, in which I will be nowhere near a computer, we will be on a bit of a hiatus. We do plan to come back. We have a couple topics to discuss. We've thought of one or two. I think Kevin had one. I had one. Maybe Brandon will come up with one in the coming weeks. So we're excited to, when we get back, we're excited to talk about those.
Aren't we doing Young Jedi Adventures reviews every week or no?
Yeah, that's right. Season 2. We got to catch up on season 1.
Deep dive. We're going to do a deep dive on all the episodes.
And then starting in August, the Bounty Hunter game is being re-released. A bit of a remaster, if you will, I think, for the PS5. And my plan is to stream it on our channel when that's released at the start of August, somewhere in the first week or two. Maybe not right when it releases, hopefully when it releases. And then, obviously, Star Wars Outlaws will release at the end of August. I also plan to stream and play that game on the channel as well. And so there will be stuff happening, whatever. Stuff will be happening on the channel. But also, while we do have a couple ideas for topics we want to cover in the future, if anyone wants to leave their suggestion in the comments below about what you would like to see us cover, talk about, explain, deep dive into, leave it in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions or your thoughts on what you would like to see us talk about. There's a lot out there. Do you want us to keep diving into Acolyte or any of the other shows, or just a character or whatever? It could be anything. We'd be really curious to see what you guys throw out there. So again, leave it in the comments below.
There might be Comic-Con news too, I'm assuming. Maybe
obviously Comic-Con stuff will be. I won't be around for Comic-Con, but we definitely talk about it afterwards when I do get back. So yeah, there's stuff will be happening, but it might be a little more interspersed going forward. I guess the next show would be the Skeleton Crew. So that's not till later in the year.
Young Jedi Adventures.
Young Jedi Adventures, right? How could I forget? All right, let's talk about the Acolyte. Episode 8, the finale. Let's do overall impressions. What you thought when the episode ended. Brandon, I want to go to you first. I think you had a positive takeaway from the episode, but let's find out for sure.
Yeah, I hated how much I liked it, Frank.
Turn your mic up.
My mic up. Is it not up?
Bit.
Is it up? Up.
Yeah, you can turn it up a little bit.
It might be as high up as it goes. 1 second.
I mean, normally I don't want to hear your voice anymore.
It had a little bit more sauce in it. That's better now.
There we go.
Hello. What was I saying? I liked it. There's stuff that I didn't quite gel with, and we could talk about that, but overall, a lot of really awesome, exciting Star Wars things to get into that now I need a season 2 to help explore further, or I'll be very sad.
Kevin?
I'm going to use this time to talk about my prediction video that I made, and I think I was like 4 out of 4 almost.
Oh, okay.
I predicted Yoda. I predicted Plagueis. I predicted a double turn. The only one I was wrong on was that Soul died, but I thought he was going to die heroically.
Yeah. The double turn is half
a double turn.
It's
double turn, kind of.
Yeah. But I see it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could be interpretation. I liked episode 5 and I liked episode 8 of the show. I didn't really like the rest. So those two were high for me, which brings the series at around a 6.5 out of 10. I'm down the middle for it, and I don't think that's a wrong thing to be. I understand. Here's the brilliance of this, and I know some people hate the gray Jedi style, but I'm gray on this. I understand why people hate it, and I understand why people love it, and I think people have the right to do both. If that's too Switzerland for you, fans, sorry. I did a non-spoiler review on my KOTOR channel. I came off a little bit more like I was liking it because all the non-spoiler generals I really liked about the finale. When we get into specifics, those are the things I didn't like. So it's funny that my spoiler review is going to be a little more harsh than my non-spoiler review.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just there. It's a show. I would love to see someone do a movie version of it now. I'm convinced that the sister story would thread a little better if it was all kind of condensed. I think that having that flashback in between 6 and 8 really hurts it because you're building momentum on them. And then you stop again for another flashback, and I'm curious what it feels like to watch 6 and then 8 back to back. I saw someone tweet about that, which was interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how a movie version of it would be. So I know when Frank's done with his little Frodo trip in the mountains, he's gonna come home. He's gonna edit a fan edit of this show as a movie, and I can't wait to watch it.
I definitely will rewatch it when I get back. Will I take the time to edit? No. But I do. Here's the thing about the finale and really kind of the show overall. I started off pretty high on the show at the start of it, and as it progressed, I was starting to go down a little bit more and more. I mean, between episodes 1 and 5, I really enjoyed that, and I think because of the other characters we had with Yord and Jackie, I really missed them in the back half of this season of this show, and that's not. I think that maybe you're supposed to feel that way because at the end of the day, this show was really about a lot of good people doing bad things, and to me, that's this show is more of a tragedy than we've gotten than in any of the series so far. Kenobi, you could argue somewhat of that same vein of tragedy, but for the most part, this show, especially at the second half after episode 5, I kind of started dwindling down and down. I thought the finale was good. I think it tied up the necessary loose ends and still left some questions remaining, which is fine for a finale, especially because I do want to see a season 2 of the show, of the story of the Acolyte now that we have it. But I thought the finale was pretty good. Or just good. I wasn't super in love with it, which is fine. And more of it hinges on the execution of the show. I love the ideas. I love the stories. We'll get into some of our criticisms somewhere in here, and we'll talk about those things. But in large part, I like what was attempted and what was trying to be told, and the execution of it all, sometimes they didn't really sit with me, and that's fine. I'm not going to, shovel this off into the fire pits and wish it burn in hell, whatever. Some people out there are just, it's okay. It's a TV show. It's like, this isn't, you're holding on too tight, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, with all that said, let's get into really, kind of like the big first thing in this episode that popped off the screen was, spoiler alert, presumably Plagueis in the cave.
No, trying to do a
yeah, Brandon, was that your initial take?
Yeah. I normally only to curse on these things, but when Plagueis popped up on the screen, I went, "Holy shit!" Like that was literally me in my living room. I couldn't believe that they did that. Yeah, that was crazy. And Sabrina was right next to me. I'm like, she's like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "Who is that?" Darth Plagueis. She's like, "Glup Shido." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No."
She knows Glup Shido, but she doesn't know Darth Plagueis. I mean, come on.
I guess Glup's got a lot of clout. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy.
All right, Kevin, how do you feel about Darth Plagueis showing up here in the finale? But Like, regardless of your prediction, we get it. You're Nostradamus. You predicted it. The only one in the world to call it. How do you do it? I don't know. How did you feel about Plagueis?
I'm the only one in the world who called it after episode 1. I will credit that.
Yes.
And I feel like it was so shoehorned in that they probably saw our episode of Scoundrels Inc., of course, and then plugged it in.
They're like, oh, that's a good idea. We'll write that down.
How is that not the last shot of the movie, of the show?
I don't disagree, but
like,
yeah.
It should be the last shot. Don't put it in the middle of the show if you're not going to return. I thought they put it there so you realize, oh, he's in the shadows, he's pissed, and at the end he was going to snuff Kyram out like a little bitch and then take over Osha's, oh, hi, I'm your new master now. This guy was a piece of shit, and bah! Sorry, I'm fired up. I know Brandon's like, I don't normally cuss. I'm going to cuss. So that just drove me nuts. That should be the last shot. And I know they have the last shot with Yoda, and you can't do 2 cameos back to back. But I was like, how is this here in the middle? And my second commentary to it is, I was watching it live, literally as it was airing, and I told the fellas afterwards, I was like, I cannot believe the discourse on Twitter. And I get it. Stay off Twitter if you haven't seen something. But some people have families. Some people work. Some people forget or they go on Twitter. And I know that the rule now needs to be you just stay off it. Now, I had already seen it, right? So I went on Twitter. I was like, I wonder if other people are like freaking out right now, thinking that people would just freak out and do like OMG, which granted a lot of Star Wars Twitter did that. But man, there are some people that straight up just posted the picture with like no explanation, just like, oh my God, look who it is. And you know what sucks is that Twitter rewards them, because later on when I go back to it and the tweet has like, 10,000 likes, and they're like, whoa, and they always do a follow-up. Wow, that blew up. Thanks, everybody. Follow me for all my other tweets, And then they get another 10 new followers. Fuck you and you posting those pictures. And I did a tweet, and I decided to delete it because I'm just sick of drama. I was going to I did tweet. I said, if anybody's reading this right now, turn off Twitter before you watch The Acolyte. Just trying to save people. But then I was like, you know what? If people are on Twitter, they're on Twitter, and they're going to risk it. That's fine. But I'm shocked. Back to the cameo. It's great, I guess. Some people are complaining that, like, why is he so creepy in the shadows? Have you read the fucking book? He's watching Anakin ask Qui-Gon about what are midi-chlorians from Phantom Menace, high atop a platform using binoculars staring. It's a really cool thing. He's terrified of this little kid. He's terrified of him. But, like, he's always been he moonlights as like I forget if it's like a high-ranking politician, and he helps Palpatine get to his ranks in the whole thing. That's why the book's so great. It's like The Godfather meets The West Wing or politics, not West Wing, but like it's great. It's like a lot of intrigue and stuff. So that's the thing that I'm worried that people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to read the book now. I'm going to wait till Leslie has her version of what's going to happen. Like, I think that the book can still be your headcanon, even with the way he appears here. So I was cool to see it, but am I worried about he's just going to be a side character now in Acolyte Season 2 instead of getting his own series, which would be like The Godfather meets fucking some crazy espionage thriller? Yeah, I'm worried that now he's going to just kind of be an afterthought or a gimmick casting. But I've been calling it since the beginning. I wanted him there, but I wanted him there. If you're going to have him there, not in the middle of the episode and then you just wipe away and now we're back to our heroes. Like, it should be the very last scene of the show, of the series, of the season, to really make it weigh something. And it didn't. It just was plugged in there. So, funny enough, it's like one of my same gripes with episode 1 and beyond, where I loved the music at first, but then I was like loathing it because they didn't have any of the themes. Yeah. Like, I loved seeing him. It's great they used the same alien. That's good. The same species. That's a credit to them. I'll say that, because they could have easily changed it. Well, they would have had a lot of pushback, but
no one would have known who he was then. At that point, you'd
so
be like, is that
cool that they do that? And because the last time you see an alien like that, it's in Attack of the Clones, where the guy's like, Sand Hill's like, the Bacon Clan was not to occur, and it's like, he's not very intimidating. They made this guy look intimidating, and it will give people a visual for when they read the book. And I do want you guys to eventually read the book. It's really good, or listen to it. But yeah, I thought it was cool. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I liked the design. Creepy as hell. I think you're trying to convey he's like a dark, creepy dude. The fingers on the cave wall, just peering out through the cave. And I was like, damn, they did it. They did it. And I see the gripe about could have been the last shot, should have been the last shot, and I think that's legitimate. As you said, do you do back-to-back cameos like that, cameo shots like that to end on the season finale, series finale maybe? I don't know. Season finale. maybe. I guess you totally could have done that, but I think this show, as I said up top, it's a lot about good people doing bad things, and I think they kind of wanted to end on somewhat of an up note by showing Yoda as the
You mean
last
when
scene.
Benestra walks in on Yoda taking a crap?
Knock on the door next time you enter my bathroom.
Yeah. So I like that they did show him. I thought maybe we might see him one more time at the end, but we didn't, and that's fine. As far as seeing him in potentially season 2 of the Acolyte, or hell, maybe even Tales of the Sith, whatever, Dark Side, maybe even they could go that route even, which I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But if he's in Acolyte season 2, I would hope he's not a side character. I would hope that the Acolyte, if you're gonna keep with the name, the theme of the Acolyte. Now that we have established the Acolyte, as the title of the episode is the Acolyte, it is Osha. She is the Acolyte. Follow her story, and her story would somehow eventually intersect with Plagueis because of the whole rule of 2 and all that, and master over the apprentice, and master takes out the apprentice, however it's going to go down. I don't think, and if it also is Leslie Headland, who is, we know, a big fan of the EU and all of that, and I think as she's demonstrated throughout the show, has been pretty good about lore accurate stuff in terms of bringing, as well as bringing in extended universe elements. I would be very curious to see how she would take what was in the book and transfer whatever it might be into a season of television, of Star Wars television. I know a lot of people out there are going to be furious at that, and that's really their own problem that they gotta, that they will never figure out for themselves, and that's on them. Whatever. I don't care. I will scroll right past your tweet and go on with my day. All that said, I hope we do get more of Plagueis in live action. I think that'd be really cool to see. Beyond that, I really don't have too much left, just because I haven't read the book or listened to the book, which I definitely want to do. And I will say this right off top, too. This show has made me want to read the High Republic books and read Plagueis once and for all. So I think I'm going to have plenty of time to do that, because I don't anticipate a second season of The Acolyte, if it does come, anytime soon, probably a couple of years at least.
The opening of Plagueis Book 2, or one of the opening big sequences, takes place on that planet now. It's like basically all but confirmed, because that planet they mine Cortosis or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Gives you a nice visual starting point of where you're at.
Brandon, any thoughts on further Plagueis potentiality?
I liked that he was there. It didn't really bother me at what point he was in the episode. And they were like lingering on that cave for a little too long. I'm like, what are they doing? And then I saw the fingers, and I was like, who is that? And then of course I saw it. I was like, oh my God.
That whenever you visit me down in San Diego, you always do that when you wake us up. You creep into me in Dasha's room, and you'll be like, hello, we're ready for breakfast.
I'm like, I threw up. So for me, like that, I know it doesn't really like actually answer it. They can still go in many different directions, but for me, it kind of like solidified it where Chimere and Osha fit into all of this, and now I'm kind of on board with that. I think Tenebris, Tenebris is probably going to be canonized too at some point. I think he's dead. I think Plagueis already killed him, and I think Chimere is his apprentice. And so now Chimere is trying, obviously, to get an apprentice of his own to like overthrow Plagueis, and we all know that's not going to work out. So that's kind of like where I'm at in terms of like where I think all of these characters are kind of like placed in the larger like Star Wars story. Where I'm like, okay, maybe Chimere, he really is like a Sith apprentice, and not like some like weird just like fallen Jedi, or like who knows how the Knights of Ren theme fits into all of this, but. For me, it was a necessary like puzzle piece, and just really cool to see. And I think he'd definitely be a part of season 2. I think however many seasons this show goes, by the end of it, like we're gonna see like Chimere and Osha try to like overthrow Plagueis, and Plagueis is gonna like kill them. Yeah, and then he's gonna be like, "Oh, who's this little boy on Naboo? Hello, little friend. What's your name?" Sheev. That's weird. Anyways.
Have you seen the tweet with like a baby Palpatine in the floating pod instead of baby Yoda?
Oh my gosh, that's pretty.
I
funny.
will
That's
I
pretty
will
funny.
say in the novel,
Brian Ward did that.
Plague. Yeah, he did. Okay, Plagueis has Palpatine, and Palpatine has Maul, and Maul is like his assassin. And like, I wonder if it's like that Maul was his acolyte, and so you would have Tenebris and Plagueis has his acolyte, which is Chimera, and Chimera's trying to fight. You know what I mean? It gets a little tricky there, but yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes too.
I will say in terms of whether Chimera is a Sith, listen to the audio description. It does describe Chimera as a Sith multiple times
Give us
in the
Sith
finale.
eyes.
And yeah, and so like I think he is a Sith, an acolyte to Plagueis, sure. But yeah, he is a Sith, and I think that's pretty cool. So
Didn't you think we were going to see Sith eyes when he his mask came off and he was turning slowly to Soul? I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to get the Sith eyes finally. Lost opportunity.
I don't know, maybe like in my own headcanon anyways, I feel like the Sith eyes only like really happen if you're either like super like uber evil like Palpatine, or like just when you're like in like full on rage mode, like when Anakin starts like slaughtering all the people on Mustafar, but then he goes back to normal eyes when he like sees Padme. That's kind of the way I take
Maul
it.
feels his rage.
Yeah,
That's what
and we've also I don't think we've ever seen Dooku with Sith eyes, at least in live action.
didn't.
So
no, yeah. Let's get into kind of the whole. Let's just jump in. Let's just get right into the events on Brendock, because Osha is with Chimera, and yeah, they go off to Brendock. That whole kind of their whole relationship is kind of being a little more displayed for us here in terms of enemies to lovers. That whole thing. Actually, I want to ask you guys this because I don't know if we really got into it. I think we talked about it, but not. I don't know. How do you feel now about? Oh my gosh, they held hands at the end of the episode. You know what that means? I mean, look, I think it's for people who want to indulge in that. By all means, go have at it. I'm not super into the shipping of Chimera and Osha. At least not yet. At least, I don't think really anything happened, and all the people can read surface level things and turn it into deeper meanings. And maybe they're right in the end, and then something else happens in season 2. I do think it's interesting that if this is along the lines of a Sith story, that there's a lot of passion and even aggression within the dark side, and how could that play into a relationship of two people. I think that would be interesting to explore in terms of a romantic dynamic that would be absolutely insanely toxic. Kevin, have any thoughts on this? The ETL relationship device with Chimera and Osha.
Yeah, that's like if in 1980 everybody was talking about Luke putting his arm around Leia at the end of Empire. I don't put any stock into it. I think that it's a big move that she did, and that it's a powerful moment where they hold hands, but I don't think that necessarily means they're romantically. I mean, he was flirting with her and introduced himself buck naked to her and all that. I get that,
Yeah.
but I really don't put too much stock in some sort of big love reveal. They can. They could have plenty of opportunities to judge how people just feel that way online and then adjust accordingly. But I didn't take it as that. I just took it as take my hand. We're going to together go on this new journey.
Because I think there's something to be said about, opposite sexes having a relationship, a close relationship that isn't necessarily romantic. And I think oftentimes it's portrayed like that in media. And so we're kind of automatically programmed into they're really close, they're intimate, and so they must be romantic. It must be more than just a friendship. Sometimes it just might be just a partnership, a friendship. That is, you can have intimate relationships with people that are highly intense, that are not romantic, and I think it'd be interesting if that's what turned out for Chimera and Osha, because it would play into a lot of fear and aggression and passion. All the dark side tropes, and heightening, at least in Osha's case, her powers, because without May, she's kind of, she's one half of a whole at this point, but if she delves deeper and deeper into the dark side to fulfill more of her potential power, but in the wrong way, I think that could be interesting going forward. I don't know that we got that from what we've seen in season 1. I think there's a lot of potential for that in season 2. Brandon, your thoughts on the relationship status of Ocean Mir?
I didn't put much thought into it. I don't really like mind either way, because like on one hand, if it was romantic, like that's kind of like an interesting angle, because that's something that the Sith can do, because they're all about embracing their emotions, as opposed to like the Jedi would never be able to do something like that. So showing like the other side of things and the way the Sith operate, we haven't really like seen stuff from the Sith's point of view. You know, like normally in Star Wars we see a Sith, they're always trying to kill our heroes, whereas like in this show we've had like interactions between like Chimere and Osha and May, where they all like love each other and like support each other, but like you forget like, oh, they're evil, like, but like
Yes.
they're, you know, but none of them ever feel like they're in harm or in any danger, because they're all on the same team. And so it's like an interesting like dynamic. So if they can explore that more, that would be interesting. But yeah, like I don't really like, I didn't put too much thought into all of that. All I know is that they're going to have a Sith HR problem on their hands, and I think Plagueis is going to report them. So,
Kevin, your thoughts about Soul and the way his story ended in the finale here?
That poor bastard.
Oh my gosh.
My buddy Tyler, not the Tyler you guys know, another Tyler, texted me, why is every Jedi in the Acolyte so janky? He's like, Soul is like Temu Jedi. You know how Temu, it's like all janky electronics? Thought that was funny, because I'm sorry, I just think that like
Sure.
Soul just gets like punked, doesn't sense when someone's not the right person, and does everything wrong, misguided, then finally just gets choked out to death while he's trying to. He literally is saying like "I love," and then just chokes out and dies. He was great. He held his own against Chimera. With
Held
his
his own. Dude, he punked Chimera for a second time. Let's be honest about
I
this.
get it, but he was so clouded, and I think that's the point of it. And then the poor bastard is gonna be the scapegoat later, and we'll talk about, I'm sure. Yeah. So it's like the guy's gonna go down. They don't even have a Lost 20 statue for him. They're gonna like strick him from the record and be like, he's a big plague upon our thing. And all he always meant well. He just messed up so much. And you know, listen, Soul. I met Qui-Gon Jinn, and you, sir, are no Qui-Gon Jinn. But I would be more Soul Patrol than Yord Horde. I just feel bad for the guy. I think nothing went right for him, and he just kept. It was like very bad things when they kill the stripper, and then they just keep trying to do everything they can to like climb out of this situation. And just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And that's Soul. Soul should be in the show should be called Very Bad Things Part 2. And I don't agree with every Jedi being janky, but yeah, a lot of these Jedi were just idiots in this season, and it makes you respect and appreciate the Jedi that would live during wartime. I think some of these Jedi would have gotten their asses kicked during the Clone Wars. But.
Well, you can say that, but at the same time, it might have changed these particular Jedi if they were in those times the way it did change those Jedi into soldiers, into generals, where they weren't previously that way. And so that's why you got Master, remember Krell? Like, he went berserk in Clone Wars. You know, like, there would have been a lot of, you know, a lot of the prequel Jedi, if you will. You know, yeah, you can call them janky or whatever, or a little dumb. But yeah, they are in quote-unquote peacetime. They're all, you know, it's happy days, you know. It's
but I feel bad. I didn't really address Soul. Like, so Soul is like a misguided Jedi who really fucked up, and in the end, you knew he wasn't going to live, because a character like that with so many mistakes has to kind of pay for them. And I wish, but he didn't even get a chance to like redeem himself. He never got a chance to explain. He could have.
He did have chances to redeem himself.
But he didn't have a chance to, like, why didn't Osha be like, hey, why did you kill my mom? And he would be like, well, she started turning into this big smoke monster, and then you started disappearing, or May started disappearing, and I was just trying to save her life. Or May,
he said, yeah.
He never got to explain himself, so.
Well, he did have 16 years. He did have 16 years to tell Osha. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think that's plenty of time to come clean about what you
He
did
just
and
needed
to own it.
16 years and 5 minutes.
I think
Yeah, you need another 5 minutes.
I think
go
I
ahead,
was
Brendan.
listening to Force Center earlier, and I think they had like a really good take on that, where it's like he didn't want to explain himself. He just wanted to take accountability. Like when she's like, "Did you kill my mom?" The only thing that he felt he had to say in that moment was like, "Yeah, I killed your mom," and like that's it. Like, he really didn't have an interest in being like, but it's because you turned into the smoke and like this, like he was just like, yeah, I did it. And then for
And he'd
me
do it
personally,
again.
yeah, he's like, and I'll do it again.
See, I'll do it again.
I know you got another mom somewhere out there. I'm on the hunt. That was like where I was like disappointed, is that like he never learned his lesson. In episode 7, we really saw like Soul's like one major flaw, and that was like him seeking out like, I have to be a part of something noble, and this is my noble cause as a Jedi, and he was so hyper fixated on that. And I was hoping at the end of this show he would at least like learn from that mistake, and he never learned from his mistake. And I guess like that it's an interesting story because not everybody learns from their mistakes, so he was like, he like defended himself. He's like, I did the right thing. And it's like, you didn't though.
Right. And that's like the great tragedy of Soul, is that he remained flawed. He never learned from his mistakes. The whole series is a big tragedy on the part of Soul, on the part of Venestra, as part, the Jedi Order as a whole, the part of Osha and May. Like it's tragic story down
Someone would
the
call
line.
the series a tragic series made in the first place.
Damn. Okay, all right. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's what part of me makes this series interesting. That's why I think this series is interesting, because it definitely is tackling the Jedi in a different light, and I don't think it's wrong to explore that avenue, because we've seen somewhat of the other side, even though we did see the downfall of the Jedi in the prequels and into the original trilogy. But I think, and there is material within the High Republic and elsewhere of the Jedi, being good and doing good for the galaxy. So I think it's and this just happened to be, kind of more of a high profile show. It's live action, and it gets a little more notice in terms of how it's handling and portraying the Jedi. Speaking of portraying the Jedi, David Harewood, who was the mystery guy who we thought might be a Sith or whatnot, turns out he's the senator, and he had some choice words for Venestra and the Jedi. Kevin, how did you receive how he critiqued the Jedi right to Venestra's face?
He's a legend. He's a legend. He's the first character to say, "May the Force be with you," like a dick.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like
I was
the
like,
most
dude, I hate
dripping in
you.
sarcasm. Like, what do you say it again? May the Force be with you. It's like one of my favorite lines of the whole series.
Yeah.
I think that it would have been cool to have him in it earlier in the show to create. I think that he's the reason why Venestra does all the stuff that she does later in the episode, because he's already breathing down her neck, and she must feel like we could nip this in the bud right now. If I go to him and everybody with the truth, they're gonna shut us down, or they're gonna like regulate us. So that's what makes her decide, even as much as she loves Soul, to like desecrate Soul's name in order to protect the Jedi Order, because this guy's breathing down her neck. So he should have been breathing down her neck in episode 1 and in 2. Like, I think that he's a good enough character where it could have been. It could have maybe made this series feel a lot different. And also, she, the whole series, Venestra only was playing opposite that dorky Padawan guy that was like, like
I hate that guy.
like an assistant, like some annoying assistant at an agency or something. It's like, come on, man. Like, she played so well with him. So if you had a bunch of scenes throughout the show of him breathing down her neck, I think would have created a little more of a ticking time bomb feeling, that like suspense throughout the season.
Sure.
And he was great. He stole every scene he was in the finale, and I think that was great. But it's just weird to like you introduce him in the last episode. Like, he should have been in episode 1 and beyond.
Yeah, he could have gone that route. Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Kevin said, and how like, like that's the reason why she pins it all on Soul, is because it's not like she can go to the Senate and be like, so I had a Padawan once, he turned to evil.
Yeah,
all of your fears about the Jedi and why you hate us so much have become a reality. He's out there, he's slaughtering people, we can't find him, he wears this helmet, I don't know where he is. So they'd shut the Jedi down.
He has a scary voice when he wears the helmet.
Yeah.
He's really scary, guys. I don't know.
He's got cortosis. I don't even know how. That stuff is so rare.
Right.
And so it's like I totally like get why she did that, but then it's just also just kind of like continuing the same trend of what Soul and the others did on Brendok. It's just like, lying to protect the Jedi Order or to protect your friends or your colleagues. And then that type of behavior just kind of perpetuates for the next 100 years until we get the Phantom Menace and the Fall of the Jedi. And it was like, maybe they should have done things a little better. And hopefully Rey doesn't make the same mistakes.
Hey.
Because Luke kind of did a little bit. He didn't really learn.
If I was a citizen, I would call for the Jedi to end, too, by the way. Imagine if there was a group of people out there in this modern world where, like, every, 60 or 120 years, someone's going to go off the deep end and go on a murderous spree and kill everybody in their school and then also kill a lot of people because they're so powerful. Like,
with their mind.
I would be a proponent of shutting down the Jedi, stop taking kids when they're too young, which, then the kids get untrained and they have the power anyway, and then it's just a mess. But I feel like I would be anti-Jedi. Not anti-Jedi in a way where I'm like, I want them all dead. But I would be like, are we still repeating history again? This has happened now. It happened with Anakin, now it's happening with Luke. I would be trying to shut down Rey. I'd be like, no, Rey, just retire, dude. Go back to sledding on Tatooine.
Well, I will say that.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say real quick about Senator Raincourt, when he talks about, it's only a matter of when someone snaps, and then what are you going to do about it? And I like that.
Great line.
I like that it alludes to Anakin, but it's more pointed at Vanessa in terms of Chimere and how he's already done that, and she knows that. Like, that he's already... Raincourt's speaking a current truth, even though to us, the audience... It also plays to Anakin, and so I thought that was a really clever way to kind of play to both, to tie it all together with what's going on currently in that story and what is to come down the line for the Jedi. Go ahead, Brandon.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. What was your last thing you said, Kevin?
I don't remember what I said 20 minutes ago, let alone 5 minutes ago. So.
Yeah.
Something about the Sith, the Jedi... Vernestra, Chimere.
Are you talking about my rant right now?
Yeah.
Was it a rant?
Did you rant?
But how Kevin would be on the side of, like,
anti-Jedi?
I would
be anti-Jedi. Not in a negative
now,
way where I want them dead. I would just be like, can we have legislation that, like, just shuts down their Jedi temples?
I can see the Republic seeing the Jedi as a necessity, not just as peacekeepers, but also, like you said, kids are being born across the galaxy with the Force every single day. And if we don't train them as Jedi, like, God knows what they'll become. But at the same time, you could go, like, a different route with, like, the Empire, where it was like, you can become an Inquisitor, or you can die. Or option C, if you're lucky, we can just gaslight you into thinking you don't have the Force, and then you'll never learn to wield it in the first place. Yeah. So
I think the Jedi are...
Go ahead.
I think the Jedi are in an interesting situation because... Whereas Raincourt kind of like wants this oversight, which is basically saying we want to be able to control the Jedi, which is basically we want to control this power that you all will. We want to dictate how it's used in the government, in the galaxy. And the Jedi don't want to be dictated by a governing body of how they should operate. And but at the same time, you look at the Jedi and how things are operating, and you go, maybe they do need a little oversight. But I don't think there's no trust between the Jedi and the government about how each would work together, I think. And I think that presents a real interesting thought in terms of what do you do with that how do you moderate that kind of power in terms of stability for the galaxy? Do you just leave it up to the Jedi because they know how it should go? Do you trust? But a lot of people don't trust the Jedi. It's such a very complicated thing that ultimately, one way or another, it ends up leading to their demise and kind of how they work with Anakin and all that stuff. So it's really, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about. I think, Kevin, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna. It's neither here nor there. I was just gonna say, my mistrust of the Jedi would be much. I firmly believe now, and it's my headcanon anyway. That's like the term of the day. When
was that in your toilet paper when you woke up this morning, or what?
In A New Hope, when he's like, "Hey, don't bring your droids in here; they're not welcome." Right on Tatooine. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like if there was a war that tore apart the galaxy for 4 years and it was caused by droids,
sure,
that we would all have an anti-droid assessment. So that's why
we're
feel like
we're doing with AI right now. We're like, anything we see with AI is like, you hate
AI
art
got
and all
some
that.
Killer logos for Scoundrels Inc. Scoundrels Drink. Remember, I would say.
That's right. That's right.
A neon sign against a brick wall.
Yeah, well, I can't believe it took an AI to figure that out.
Well, I for one would not be telling the wizards with laser swords what to do if I was just a regular average Joe. Scary.
Yeah, well, Rancor.
That's why you have to get rid of them, because you can't trust them. They're too powerful. You got to be like Batman. If there's even a 1% chance that he can turn bad, then we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
But they don't even have an army for another 100 years, Kevin. And it's only because the Sith kind of like orchestrate the whole thing.
Yeah.
Through a Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Vernestra should have just been like, remember, I can kill you with my mind. And he'd be like, yep, that's fair.
Okay. I want to talk about actually the fight choreography in this episode, especially Saul and Chimere. I really enjoyed it. Definitely some Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon stuff in there coming off the balcony. I thought that was pretty cool. I will say the fight with Osha and May was, I think, done pretty well, considering you have to do some face swapping or whatever, but also kind of, I did think some of the orchestral hymns or whatever you want to call it over the music, honestly, like, I know it happens in Duel of the Fates, but in this version it felt a little Final Fantasy Final Boss type of music to me. I mean, maybe that's just because I play a lot of Final Fantasy and that's what came to my mind.
Why don't you stream that, man? I miss watching you play that game.
I might have to. I might have to do that. I have Rebirth. I haven't even really got that far into it. Anyways, Kevin, what'd you think of the battle with then choreography and all that, the whole sequence with
fight choreography? Top notch. I think the worst thing for Star Wars, though, what happened is that the lightsabers got so good that they can actually have lit lightsabers on set.
I agree with you.
So you see them, and it does probably look how it would look more in real world, where it's like they're in a 3D space, but I don't think they rotoscope over them anymore. I think they just allow, it's like maybe a little bit, maybe they do a little touching up. But to me, the lightsabers just didn't feel as vibrant. They don't pop as they do in the prequels, especially like Phantom Menace had the best sabers of all of them.
Oh yeah,
I think they got lazy with Attack of the Clones a little bit.
I think it happens when you go to digital like that. I think that does it. I think that takes away a lot from that effect when you rotoscope, especially on film.
About it. Didn't the sabers feel just a little muted, like not as bright? And like, I think it's because they're not rotoscoping; they don't need to. So they still look good and for close-ups and when they're doing this.
That's just an aesthetic thing. That's yeah.
So, but the choreography is fantastic, I will say, and I think it's from the same guy that did the Rogue One stuff with Vader. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, the Vader hallway. That team did
And I don't mind the slow motion. That was cool. And the headache of trying to have the face swapping of showing one actress fight herself. Pretty good. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I agree. I want to see the white of the sabers. I know, like, in times, it's kind of like a cool effect because it feels a little reminiscent of how the lightsabers look in, like, Empire Strikes Back for whatever reason. Like, that way of rotoscoping. Sometimes you would get the red and the blues like bleeding over into the white in ways that you don't get in like the prequels, and so like sometimes it's reminiscent of that, and it's cool. And I still don't know how I feel about the lightsabers like actually like glowing. It still looks odd to me because we grew up with those lights not actually like being there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like I'm used to like seeing the lightsaber, but not like the light emitted from it.
The good part about it is
yeah.
it does create then the glow around 3D space, right? So I get that, but
it's definitely
I think it's definitely a generational thing because I think anyone coming up with the sequel trilogy, that's the version that they know. That's what they watch first, probably. Just like us, for whether it's the OT or the prequel trilogy, you're gonna have those. You're gonna have a certain bias to that particular aesthetic. But yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, no, yeah, it definitely gets some getting used to still, I think. But the choreography was cool. Yeah, like that, like slow-mo jump off the balcony that like looked like it wasn't filmed in slow motion, but it was meant to be like perceived as a slow motion moment. Was like really interesting. I like as it was happening, I'm like, I like it and don't like it at the same time, but it's cool either way. I'm glad they did it. But
I think they did it. If they had did that more, I go maybe that's a little too much, but I think they did it the right amount. You know.
Yeah, like I'm glad that we tried it out. It's pretty cool, but it looks a little weird. And so, and then, but yeah, the two like blades flying and Soul just like blowing them away with like the Force was pretty cool. Sick. Yeah, I totally like Soul. Like, even though he'd never learned the error of his ways, he's a pretty badass Jedi. Like, Chimere wiped out like 7 or 8 Jedi like all at once, and Soul can take him on one-on-one and beat him. So like Soul's like probably one of the better like Jedi when it comes to just like combat in the whole Jedi Order, or at least
Jackie was a prodigy. Even though she ultimately bit the dust, she took him to task, and if she didn't, if she wasn't so young, if she was more experienced, I think she easily could have gotten to Soul's level, if not exceeded. But that's not how the story goes.
Yeah, I mean, it took like a gimmick to kill her. Like, who would have thought there's a tinier lightsaber at the base of his lightsaber?
Right.
I've never seen that. I've been a Star Wars fan longer than Jackie.
She's been alive. What the hell? Yeah.
Yeah. Lightsaber fight was pretty cool. Soul's a badass.
All right, let's get to Osha bleeding the crystal and killing Soul, force choking Soul. I will say this, and I've said it for the past couple of weeks. To me, the weakest part of the show, for me personally, has been the twins and their storyline and how you feel about them. Because I don't feel a whole lot of attachment to them. I've tried, and this episode also, like, I think if I was invested in the characters before this episode, I think a lot of the stuff that happened to them would have hit harder. I do view it, though, still from a tragic standpoint of like what has happened to Osha. She was someone who wanted to try to go off and be a Jedi. It didn't work out for her. Then she gets brung back into the fold. She finds her sisters alive and doing all, killing Jedi, and now they flipped, essentially. They've swapped positions, not necessarily, shades of light, but it's just it's a tragic story, and it sucked to watch in that way, because you're like, damn, we're so used to, I think, Star Wars having a lot of hope in their stories at various points, whether it's the conclusion of a story or somewhere in the middle. And this one just didn't really have that. Kevin, how did you take all that into account with Soul and Osha and bleeding of the crystal and all that?
I thought the bleeding of the crystal was exceptionally done well. Reading in the comics of how Vader does it, and hearing about how, like, I always thought that was a unique twist, that like they just don't pick, I changed it, I'm gonna go to the store and swap it out for a red one. They bleed, and how she's like losing herself to the dark side as that's happening. That's really cool. So I thought that was really neat. And the sisters, I know it's weak part for a lot of people. It was actually wasn't as weak for me in the finale, but throughout the season, I agree. It was hard to kind of root before them, but my heart, and I'm sure you'll get to it with the mind wipe, my heart, that tugged the heart a little bit.
Sure,
right there for the acting and stuff. But all in all, it's a tragedy, but I just think that these flashback episodes derailed it so much. And I think no offense to the kids aren't really likable in the flashback. So at least May isn't.
No, yeah, May definitely isn't. Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see if you get that storyline out of the way in the first part, and then you just watch the rest in chronological order. How that would be. I don't know, Brandon. What do you think? I mean, I don't have too much to say about it because, again, it's all like I said. A lack of empathy for these characters. I didn't think they established them well enough in the show to really care that much. But I will say, technically, the bleeding of the saber was done really well, and I really love that. And I know, as a fan of Jedi Survivor, doesn't that happen in the? Someone was talking about how that happens in the game. Yeah. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, the bleeding of the Kyber crystal was like insanely cool. Like I was so excited when that started happening because like it's like, all right, like maybe she's force choking him now, but maybe she'll let him go. And then like once I see that Kyber crystal turning red, I'm like, oh, she ain't letting him go. Like this is so cool. And that little effect too when she ignited it and it started out as blue and then changed to red. That was pretty sweet. But yeah, like as I was watching like the scene by that tree in particular with the mind wipe and everything, I was like, I know this is supposed to be emotional, but I feel nothing. And I think I actively now hate both May and Osha. And I'm like, it's like I hate these characters. Like I don't care that like they're like, oh sister, I love you. I'm like, I don't care. Like you're terrible. Like May like was just the worst. Like she was like flip-flop, indecisive. 1 minute she wants to kill all the Jedi. The next minute she's going to turn herself in. The next second she's running, even though the Jedi are trying to save her life. And then she like knocks out Osha and goes with Soul, and then tries to kill him, runs away from him. And then she's like, no, Soul should actually be tried for his crimes. And then all of this, and it was like so wishy-washy. I don't know what is on May's mind at any given moment, and she was just like a coward and always running away. So I never liked May. And then Osha, I was a big fan of until she killed Soul, because I'm like a huge member of the Soul Patrol. I loved Soul, and so I was like super disappointed that he like was just like doubling down. He's like, yeah, I did the right thing, like. Your second mom better count her days because I'm coming for her next. So, but I totally get too, because like I feel like he let Osha kill him. I feel like he's too powerful of a Jedi. He could have stopped that force choke at any given time, but I think he allowed it to happen because he did know that he deserved to be killed for what he did, but he still didn't regret it. And he still didn't see necessarily why it was wrong.
Up. I mean,
so
like,
that's
it
why
is so man. It's very, very tragic, and I think that's the challenging part of this series and of this episode was that Soul is doubling down, and Osha is now leaning into her revenge, into her anger, and everything, and feeding the dark side of her soul, and killing Soul. And I think there is a split second where Soul was like, he could have stopped it, but then he just, he let, which is just crazy because he did everything for, in his eyes, for the betterment of Osha, and yet here he is letting her basically turn to the dark side to kill him when that's not the betterment for her, So it's just like, but at the same time, he is paying for his crimes that he committed against Osha and May and the Coven and all that. So it's very, there's so many different ways to look at it and examine, and so for that, I think the show is worthwhile watching. So it's a very challenging series in terms of how you view the Jedi and relationships and the dark and the light and everything in between. So,
and there's
crazy stuff.
There's also like too about like the just like how the Force works and the nature of the Force, and it's like I was like, oh my god, I can't believe she's killing Soul. Like she's loved him for like 16 years or whatever. But once you go down the dark path, forever will dominate your destiny, all that stuff. Like the dark side is this thing that like once you tap into it, it gets a hold of you,
Yeah.
And so like she let the those emotions in, and she let herself go to the dark side, and then it's really
it
hard
started with her fight with May. It started in that, and like, and then it ramped up when Osha or when May finally got Soul to confess out loud that I killed your mom. And then Osha is like, and then it just, it was over from there. And she's already wearing the gear, so might as well.
Exactly. But it's not something you could just like tap out of. It's like, it's exactly how like, it's something people have been like talking about for years. It's like, Anakin goes from being the greatest Jedi Knight in the galaxy to like committing mass genocide in like an hour, like, but like that's just like because he let the dark side in. Once you turn to the dark side, it's like completely takes over, and it's a really good like allegory for like how like we all just let our like emotions get the best of us sometimes, and so but yeah, I just wish like she could have been like, why did you kill my mom? And he'd be like, she turned into black smoke and it was really scary and I overreacted. And he'd be like, that I've seen her do that. That is scary. And then that's it.
Before we wrap up here, because we're almost done here, I want to ask about, Kevin, the Vanessa.
You want to ask about why the tracker all of a sudden sabotaged the ship during
Actually, yeah, I do. Actually, great. Because I'm like, why is
I have no answer, so I was hoping you guys did.
My only thing is, I think Basil thought that Sol was going to harm or kill May, and was like, nah. But I don't know for sure because I don't speak his language, and I'm not. I honestly, I'm perplexed. Like, why did that have to happen? I don't know. If they needed somehow for Sol to get like more separated from May's ship, he could have just like ran into a giant ass rock or had to evade a giant ass rock, and then oops, she's gone. And then
why didn't he punt him afterwards? I would have landed the ship and been like, hey, and pick him up. Pick him up and be like,
shrug him up from a tree?
Dude, what are you
Sniff
doing?
this. Oh, no, don't bring
Never
Minnie into
thought I'd
this.
punch Minnie in
Oh,
the face,
boy.
sorry.
Okay, we don't condone violence here on Scoundrels Inc., but whether it's with mouses or otherwise.
I would punt that animal, kick him right through the uprights between two trees on that planet.
Yeah, I didn't understand what happened there either. I was like eating dinner as I was watching it, and I looked down at my food and I looked up at like Basil sabotaging the ship. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Because like
how long did I look down at my plate for? I'm like, this is
because
so
like in the previous episode or a couple before that, he like attacks her in the ship, and now he's saving her. I guess
he is tenebrous, dude.
Yeah, there it is.
Could you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
That
would be the greatest twist.
I want to comment before you get to the finale and the ending and the Yoda and all that, and the mind wipe. The music. We hear Kylo Ren's theme clearly in that one episode, but then in the last 3 episodes, there have been moments where you can kind of hear it and then it stops or it changes, which makes me so fearful that the composer didn't even realize they were doing Kylo Ren's theme and that it's just part of their score. I don't think, because we never hear it again, he's not going to be a freaking Knight of Ren.
No. There's no way, because Leslie Headland in the interview has said it would. Yes, that was intentional.
For what?
Season 2, I guess. I don't know.
Because he's.
I could certainly see. I could certainly see Chimera being a founder of the Kylo Ren, where he leaves Plagueis.
No one should ever leave Plagueis. That'll be a mistake. No one leaves Plagueis.
Maybe he inspires the Knights of Ren.
Maybe
they're like, "Wow, this Chimera guy is so cool. Let's all wear a bunch of masks and worship the."
Yord survives, and creates.
What if Osha is actually, the establishing member of the Knights of Ren?
I hope that happens. That's good.
Off of like an offshoot of Chimera, because she learns from she trains under Chimera.
The score on this show, is great for my KOTOR, because there's lots of what we like to call in the business lots of underscore music, which means nothing memorable, all like sounding like Star Wars, sounding prequel-y, so it'll be able to be interacting with other themes. But talk about, like, there's no theme. Like, I know that Soul had his theme, and I want to listen to it. I know, Frank, you listen to it more on the soundtrack.
Just the first four. I haven't released, or the first half.
But there's nothing memorable about the score. There's nothing memorable about the score. And again, they didn't use any it's like, to quote CM Punk when he was bitching about people in AEW not taking advice from other veteran wrestlers, he was like, that would be like on a baseball team, and you have the greatest hitters of all time, like Sammy Sosa and McGuire, and they're telling you how to hit, and you're like, no thanks, pal, I don't need advice from you, I'm going to go ahead and hit my own way. Like, okay, yeah, fuck off, Sammy Sosa. No! Like, how do you have the greatest music of all time, and you have it during an era where there's lots of Jedi, lots of moments for that? And I'm not saying we need to do specific things like Yoda's theme or ill-placed things like the Empire's theme, but the dark side theme and the Jedi theme and the Force theme. Like, how do you not use it? They never do. There's not a single time. You have the episode 1. We were excited about the mystery theme that played once, and that's it. And I think Hoey thought he heard the Yoda's theme at one point, which I heard it. I really didn't hear that. And then we have the Kylo Ren theme and nothing else. And it's like, come on. Very frustrating about that. Why Kevin Kiner's awesome. Why the composer on Ahsoka, props to them for kind of utilizing it. But like even the composer on Obi-Wan, like I said, like when they're like, oh, Vader hadn't earned his theme yet. It was already played in both fucking Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. You just wanted to have your own Darth Vader theme, which wasn't good, which it was corrected by the Smets and Brandon Twig cut of Obi-Wan. Like to have this theme playing when they're on the... Sorry, I went on a tangent. You know what I'm saying? But the music...
I know. We can't go a show without Kevin mentioning Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Was the music a disappointment for you, or did you?
That's part of why I said like the show kind of went a little down for me as the series went on, especially the back half, because I stopped noticing the music. I stopped. Yeah. I couldn't help after the episode. I'd go, it wasn't really nothing musically stood out to me, and music is a huge part of Star Wars. One of the reasons why many people fall in love with Star Wars is because of the music, and George has attributed a lot of the success of the original trilogy to John Williams and the score that he brought to those movies. So it is a very big, important aspect. I still think Michael Abels is a very good,
great.
He's great. But the decisions made here for the Star Wars, I think, I'm almost venturing to guess that it's probably the weakest of the TV shows at this point. Just because, like you said, Kevin, like even in Ahsoka, there was original music, but memorable. Like,
do you remember watching the first 10 minutes of KOTOR with us? Remember how many times, like, and I know we were making jokes. You could be like, "Oh, that's from The Dark Knight" or whatever. But like, you guys were making quotes and stuff because I was using quotable music cues, interacting with new music from the movie, right, for Convergence, but still utilizing enough Star Wars themes where you guys were like throwing one-liners from the saga, like, "Oh, that's the music from there."
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like,
Brandon, what do you think?
In terms of that, the music is a bit of a disappointment, but it is what it is, and at least the first half, I guess, was pretty good. So.
I'm actually I'm hearing from Disney right now, and they're taking Kevin's Minnie Mouse away.
They're storming.
They're going to send
the
him
compound.
They're going to send him a box.
Again, the music's great, and I'm going to use some of it in KOTOR because it's good underscore music that denotes the feeling of the prequels. That's very good. Mm-hmm. Just got to have some of the themes.
Yeah, it wasn't super memorable outside like the first few episodes for me.
Yeah.
I recognized a lot of stuff early on, and then afterwards, I didn't pick up on anything, especially like the last 3 episodes.
Like, remember, like Sabine's theme is so cool in like Rebels and stuff, and that's a new theme. But then they interacted with the parts of the Force theme and stuff. Like, just you could create new memorable themes. Just interact it with some of the other stuff, And Rebels that soundtrack was so good because they were trying to mimic like the original trilogy with like stuff like that. So I didn't mean to go on that soapbox, but I just every time there's a new series, you're just thinking this is going to be an opportunity for such great music, and it's like it's not. It just kind of falls flat.
Yeah. But it is what it is, and it's Okay, we'll move on. Let's move on to, I guess, what would we have left to talk about? The Yoda cameo? Is that
Yoda and the Mind Wipe.
And the Mind Wipe, yeah. Kevin, Mind Wipe, yeah. Talk about, like, the Mind Wipe. I instantly thought of you. I was like, here we go. I know Kevin's going to talk about it. And I like that. Again, this also ties up, like, a loose thread in terms of if someone falls into the hands of the Jedi with knowledge, well, how could that be? The whole the millennium thing, right? Yeah. And Chimera's like, yeah, well, yoink, and it's happened before in KOTOR, Kevin. This was, sure, especially perked your ears.
So close to having Vanestra saying, like, oh my God, you don't remember anything since you're a child? You've been mind wiped. We've seen this once before in the Jedi, and not even needing to say Revan, but just saying like we've seen this once before. Would have just melted my brain. And we know Leslie's a KOTOR fan. I'm surprised
Yeah.
she didn't do it. So close to getting Rev in canon, even if it's like in a vague way. But I thought that was cool. And I thought, now, when Venestra is filling her in, she doesn't fill her in. I mean, she does. See, I thought they were going to go the way of, like, the Revan storyline, too, where, like, Venestra doesn't tell her that she had a sister, and that they're like, hey, you know, this girl has power. Let's train her as a Jedi and not tell her about her past. But that would have made them even more dicks. Because that's what they do to Revan, by the way. They wipe his mind out, and then they create him a tool to, like, take care of, you know, Malik and all them. So I thought they were going to go that way. But, yeah, it touched my ever-loving KOTOR heart. I thought it was very well done, too. Our mind just starts to go blank while they're hugging. I thought that was very well done cinematically.
It's I thought that was executed well. I just wish I would have felt more for it. Because I'm like, oh, man, I could really... Because, like, they're playing music under this where you're like, you should be sympathetic to what's happening here. But I'm like, wait a minute. This one just killed Sol. Her sister watched her kind of do it gleefully, and now here they are with the Sith Lord about to go off and train, and I'm supposed to be sad that she's getting her mind wiped? Like, it's so, like, again, very challenging, very conflicted here about things that are happening, and I don't know how to, you know, parse it. Brandon, how did you feel in this that part of the show?
Yeah, I think that's like another slight reason why like I really don't like Osha now, where May's like, I'm willing to get my mind wiped and have my whole life basically be meaningless, and Osha's like, good idea, bye. Like, I'm gonna go learn how to be a Sith. Like, she just like that whole interaction, I think, was just like so weird for May to be so willing to do that for her sister. Then like for Osha just to be like, yeah, you should do that.
Unearned. The unearned. My co-host on Jedi Way, Laura, said felt unearned.
I think again some of the execution, the ideas, I like the idea. Again, the execution, a little less to be desired. You know.
But now I'm thinking of like thinking of Kevin's reaction if Vernestra was like, oh, your mind's been wiped. The Jedi have seen this once before, and she just like stares off, and like the KOTOR theme like plays very softly in like the background.
There is a rumor that the KOTOR theme, there was a KOTOR 2 little theme that played during one of the episodes. I saw that on Twitter, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, you know, my collective mind would have freaked out.
Yeah,
or like they do this,
or pissed me off. They were like, it's happened once before. And then they just name a character that's never been, you know what I mean? If they're like, let's just create a new character and say it happened.
Or they had this whole conversation in like a trophy room, and it like pans over to like Revan's lightsaber, and it zooms in.
And his mask. Yeah, his mask is there. Oh, fuck. See, like, come on, dude.
Hey, season 2, you never know.
They could have done that.
Get us in the writer's room right
now. The ship
now.
that they fly on is called the Exile. That is a complete KOTOR reference. Leslie, what are you doing to me? She probably didn't get permission. She probably asked.
I mean, hey, she got to run it through Dave. So, anyways, let's talk about the Yoda cameo here. We know that, like, I think Brandy brought it up at the start of the show when she's trying to, like, get a hold of whoever. And it's like, yeah, I'm waiting for Yoda to pop up, whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, and then so we get the back of the head shot of Yoda. And I will say this. It seems to me like they used the puppet that Rian Johnson had in Last Jedi just from the back. And I wish, it's small nitpick, I really don't care, but I thought about it in the time, and I wish they would have got the original Phantom Menace puppet, or at least the Phantom Menace 3D rendering that George replaced.
You mean the
with.
Phantom Menace puppet that looks like he was on ketamine? Someone tweeted
Yeah, I do.
That was
And I happen to like that, okay? Okay, Kevin. Sorry.
Call
me
I
a
remember when it
shill.
was revealed. Listen, youngin. I remember when that shit was revealed on the Force.net, a picture of him. And everybody's like, wouldn't he look way younger? Because we didn't even know, like, it's like, he should have had a little more hair. Should have had as much hair as Yaddle.
With, like, down the whole braid,
Let's
too.
talk about Yoda real quick. And, well, I want to get Brandon's thoughts on that appearance first before I go into my final rant. Look, I know I'm full of darkness here. I mean, that's why I'm trying to cover my eyes.
You can't even see your eyes.
I have Sith eyes under here, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely knew it was coming when she was like, oh, I'm trying to get a hold of so-and-so, see if you could reach him. And I'm like, that's going to be Yoda. It has to be. Unless it's like Mace Windu's grandfather or something. I agree. Yeah, it looked. The moment I saw it, I'm like, oh, they went puppet, and I was like, that looks like Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, Last Jedi puppet.
I didn't catch that it was a puppet. I thought it was CGI. I have to watch
that was
it.
definitely a puppet.
I caught it was a puppet right away, and I was hoping it would be CGI to be consistent with the prequels. But then if they were to go puppet, I would just love for them to say screw it and use the puppet from Phantom Menace. But
that's what I'm saying.
But since George like CGI'd over it in what's now the official canon version, I feel like that was like one of George's like list of rules where it's like, if you go back to Phantom Menace or before, he can't be a puppet. Or like he can't be that particular puppet.
Yeah.
Like
He's only a puppet
after
the fall of the Jedi. Then he turns into a puppet.
Yeah, he's like, you cannot use that particular puppet. There's a reason I covered it up, and I'm going to every single Goodwill in America and destroying the VHS copies.
Could we talk about, though, the big elephant in the room?
Okay.
Yoda could sense Anakin killing Tusken Raiders from Coruscant.
Okay, I'm glad you're going to do this because I want to talk about this too. Go ahead.
And Yoda could sense when Jedi were dying during Order 66. How is he not? And I get it, you can't sense dark side stuff because the dark side clouds everything. But how is he not? Unless we don't know that he knows. How is he not picked up on this cover up? He probably the first words out of Tim Vanessa should be in season 2. Know what you've done, I have. Like he literally he should have felt all the death that happened on that planet in episode 5. Like this is Yoda we're talking about, and so I'm just curious what you guys think. Do you think he knows everything? What is the first word he's going to say to Vanessa aside from, why did you interrupt my? This is my me time. What do you guys think?
So here's what I'll say. I've seen some of this on Twitter, and this past week I spent very little time on Twitter after this episode came out, just because I didn't want to deal with whatever might be out there. But I did see some of this out there, and I know some people are like, "Oh, well, Yoda was sensing Order 66, but couldn't sense, when 8 Jedi died on Brendok." I'm like, huh. He could sense thousands of Jedi dying pretty much all at the same time. Makes sense. That would have a huge ripple effect throughout the galaxy.
How about the Anakin part?
So, hold on. So, sensing thousands of Jedi dying all at once all over the galaxy, 8 Jedi on some remote, distant outer rim planet.
Which one do you Raiders? Think? You didn't answer my question, sir.
Hold on. You asked about Order 66 and all that, and the 8 Jedi. This is how I'm taking it. Also, I think Yoda would probably be like, I don't really want to know when everyone dies all the time. Like, that would suck. Like, to get like a little fucking, chime in your ear of like, another Jedi died over on blah blah blah. Nope, another one over here. Blah blah. Like, what a like horrible way to exist as a Jedi. Just feeling everyone dying all the time. I think it would be perfectly fine to be like, I don't really want to know when people, become one with the Force all the time. I think that's okay. Also, it's like trying to be tapped into like all of that all the time. Like, that would be exhausting. I don't know. I don't think it's really a big. I think that's just like trying to invent like a cheat code of like, because you're a Jedi, you're a powerful Jedi, you can sense everything that's happening all the time, anywhere, any place, anytime. Nothing should get by you aside from the dark side stuff. We'll use that as a cover for anything that's going on. So there you go. Like, it's just like, we're getting into weird, like, made up things of how we think it should work because it's done this way, but instead, we don't really want to service the story. We want to service, how it should work in canon and in story, or like, that universe. When it's really about kind of, we're just trying to tell a story here, not how it should. If this was real life, how it would work. And I don't receive it that way. So that's What other question do you have, Kevin? I'm sorry.
Well, I have a thought on that.
Well,
too.
you didn't explain why he would be able to hear why would he feel the Anakin pain?
Oh, the chosen one? The chosen one? Well, I don't know. I think the chosen would have a pretty big.
Is he the chosen one though?
It looks
Brandon
like.
Doesn't think so.
Hey, listen. I think in that scene in Attack of the Clones, he's like in the like little meditation room, meditating. So I think like he just happened to be meditating at the same time that Anakin was killing the Tusken Raiders. So he was like more open to like things happening in the galaxy at that time because he was currently like meditating, like reaching out. Or like if he was like not meditating, if he was like at the Jedi cafeteria at that time, I don't think he would have sensed Anakin.
Root
I'll
stew,
buy it.
yeah,
That's
eating
fine.
root stew.
I still think Yoda should be known as the greatest Jedi of all time, and like there's a cover up going on. Like he should be able to sense like feelings in the Jedi Temple of soul's guilt. He could feel like, I feel.
Well, we don't know that he's not.
I sense much fear in you. Like how is he not in 16 years not sense Torben's angst, Kalnaka's angst, like everybody's angst? I mean I think it's a fair thing.
I agree. I think like one of the first things he should say to Vernestra, like in a season 2, would be like, "Why'd you lie about Soul?" Like he just already knows.
There you go.
Well, I mean, yeah. So first of all, I think that's fine, but I think also people out there are jumping to all these conclusions or assumptions when we haven't even heard squat from Yoda. We saw the back of his head, and that's it. So basically, now we're just all of a sudden we're assuming he couldn't sense any of this because he wasn't in the show to begin with. I mean, he's not like the only powerful Jedi on the council at this time. I'm not saying there's someone more powerful than him. I'm just saying there's someone that's powerful enough to sense the things that you're asking Yoda to sense. I think, so it's like, does Yoda need to sense every single thing?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Well, then, like, okay, if you want to lay it like that, be my guest. There's nothing left to say there. Oh, okay, literally, okay, wow, okay.
I yield my time.
We'll see. Yoda better have a good excuse for wherever he was when all this was going down, and not training the kids in Young Jedi.
He was in the other building. I don't, he was. Any other final thoughts as we wrap up here about the show? Any other last
I've got
critiques?
one small one. In this episode in particular, but it's also happened throughout the whole season. Like I've noticed, like Leslie Headland, like purposely putting in like famous Star Wars lines, like May saying, "I'll see you in hell, Jedi."
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Yeah,
yeah, and like there was like another one. It was Chimere saying something like that, like Palpatine like said to Luke. He was like, "Oh, strike him down, and your journey to the dark side will be complete," and stuff like that. Like, so basically like all these like greatest hits of Star Wars lines like sprinkled into this whole show, and I was just wondering if you guys like if that like pulled you out of this show at all at any point, or if you were like, cool, like I recognize that line.
Fan films does it a lot, and it's maddening. I try to avoid it in KOTOR. I'll do like the, I have a bad feeling about this and all that. But like, I have one where it's like I sense it too, and like when I go back, I'm like, why did I have that? It's such a, you know what I mean? So I don't mind. They're playing the greatest hits, but it just goes back to the music. If they're going to do that with the dialogue, why couldn't they do that with the music?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much kind of what I was going to say too. It was like if you kind of want the music hits, so then, lines. I mean, first of all, the hell line, "I'll see you in hell, Jedi," like different than what Han Solo, but yet the word hell is said. And I was like, oh damn, that's cool, because like you do think of Han Solo's line, "I'll see you in hell," yeah, and then he goes off and Tauntaun dies.
Who says the line again, by the way? Because I missed it. When I watched it, I missed it. I must have done.
May
We
says
have
it
a
to
sick
Sol.
baby here, Kira. Huh?
May says it to Sol when she's getting in the other. Show.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
She closes the door and she's like, "I'll see you in hell, Jedi." I was like, "Damn, that's kind of cool."
Look, that line came from the greatest. The hell was mentioned from the greatest Star Wars media of all time, of Empire Strikes Back. So
yes, sir.
Fine with it.
And I think it was mentioned one more time in hell was said in where else? It was also said somewhere else. I forget. Anyways,
I just feel like like a lot of the I think repeat lines I noticed have like come from like Chimere, and it's just like it's just funny because it's like I like to think that like the Sith in general have like these like greatest hits lines that they pass on from apprentice to apprentice. Like
it's like when like a telemarketer's on. It's like when you're talking to a telemarketer and they have like a response and a binder for everything you say.
Exactly.
Actually,
what do you do if your apprentice is impressed by what you just did with the Force? Tell them the dark side is a pathway to many abilities, some consider to be unnatural.
Yeah. We got to get that binder.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it here for this week's episode of Scoundrels, Inc. And again, we'll be on a little bit of a hiatus, but I will be streaming The Bounty Hunter re-release on PS5 when it comes out, as well as Star Wars Outlaws. So if you're into Star Wars video games, stay tuned to the channel here on YouTube. I will be streaming it. Guys, what else do you have going on? Branding, anything going on? Science?
I'm working on it. I've been a little behind on my YouTube channel, but stay tuned there at Brandon Hanna on YouTube. Still have a video to pop out about my NASA social event that I went to for the Starliner launch, and getting the film physics back up and running. And yeah, because I started a new job recently. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Yeah.
So I've been all caught up in that.
Good to see you got a haircut too. You look sharp, bro.
Thank you.
Kevin, what's going on with KOTOR and Convergence and all that, or anything else going on?
Convergence is plugging away. We're crossed over almost a year and a half of production now, so it's crazy. But I got some. I saw some more preview of it. It's coming together. It's looking great, and can't wait for people to see it. It's in the trailer, so I can. Now we were talking about Yoda. We do have Yoda in the World Between Worlds here, and creating a pretty special thing with him in the movie that's going to be awesome. But had to pause on my work on that. My real work's been real crazy lately. So other than that, it's good to talk shop with you guys. And I know we're going to be slowing it down here a little bit, but we appreciate the fans, and I'm sure Brandon assigned us to a couple Comic Cons coming up, so we'll probably see you all in person.
Fingers crossed. Waiting to hear back.
I will say, being a host on 2 Star Wars shows on a show this divisive and it's been very exhausting. So, Frank, your journey to Mordor couldn't come at a more perfect time.
You're telling me.
I'm welcoming the hiatus and looking forward to future stuff. I think Skeleton Crew will be fun. Young Jedi Adventures I'll watch with Kira. And on my channel, the KOTOR channel, I'm going to start doing more stuff. I did like a pop-up review like right after I saw it and stuff like that. I'm just trying to kind of build up more engagement to the channel, so by the time KOTOR releases, it's kind of on an upswing momentum-wise. So be looking for more content from me, and hopefully I can employ some of these guys to do some videos with me too, like some quick videos and stuff like that. So we'll see. Other than that, glad, as I tweeted, hope people enjoyed the finale. If they didn't, my condolences. But either way, any day with new Star Wars is always good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, if you have any suggestions for things you want us to talk about in the future, in the next coming weeks, leave it down in the comment section down below. Love to read those and take those into consideration. And probably I'll just do it all together. So, all right. I've been Frank Janish. That was Brandon Hanna and Kevin Smets. We've been talking about the Acolyte, and we will see you when we see you.
In hell.
Scoundrel. Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.